Narratives are central to our lives as they provide in many cases instructions for living life. Narratives emerge within a particular context and they provide insight which help us better understand our world. Power is a narrative that emerged from the beginning of time. Even our ancestors struggled for power. Over time, as civilization progressed, notions of power and its role in our world changed. An example of this is the word Machiavellianism. This has become a pejorative term which has come to represent manipulation and opportunism. We have all heard that famous phrase from Machiavelli's The Prince, "The ends justify the means," placing significance on the individual. Rudyard Kipling, however, is in opposition to this as he believes that power lies in the possession of integrity and moral worth. Both of these narratives provide us opposing perspectives on the dynamics of power, one being pragmatic, that is Machiavelli, and one being stoic, that is Kipling. It is narratives like these that can inspire change as they make us consider different perspectives of important values to us as humans. Machiavelli's narrative emerged in the context of Renaissance humanism, which was a shift away from the idea that power was for the greater good for society and in honor of God. To some of us, some regard this as good, whilst others don't. So now let us consider the Machiavellian term of power. The shift in Machiavelli's time towards secularism resulted in a new vision of power which focused on individuality and the art of rhetoric. However, was it really a new vision of power? In fact, the truth is that history is full of non-virtuous leaders, and therefore the Prince challenges our beliefs that power is used for the ethical and the moral. The Prince is a pragmatic treatise which is in the form of an instructional guide that perceives an effective leader is one who can seize the moment. He quotes, "If a ruler wants to survive, he'll have to stop being good at least when the occasion demands." Rudyard Kipling, in his poem If, has a contrasting narrative that suggests that the individual must be dignified and noble in defeat and in times of trouble. He quotes, "We must treat those two impostors just the same." This is saying triumph and disaster need to be approached with stoicism. Kipling wrote his poem in the context of the Victorian era where importance of self-discipline and moral character was most significant. The Prince, emphasis was based on the importance of maintaining power. Morality and ethics are viewed as an instrument for manipulation. The mocking tone of the Prince is evident in the quote, "I'm sure every leader will wish to be seen as compassionate rather than cruel," or the saying, "He must be careful not to use his full compassion unwisely." This logic clearly points to the fact that it is more important for a leader to be cruel than compassionate. It suggests that a leader is strengthened by cruelty, which ultimately enables the maintenance of power. Machiavelli draws on historical Roman leaders including Roman emperors Commodus Severus and Maximus, who are extremely cruel and are used in the treatise as an example of effective leaders. These assumptions are challenged some hundreds of years later in the Victorian era by Kipling. Kipling's instructions for living reflect the rigid traditional values of the Victorian era together with the idea that living a powerful life was acquired from living in harmony with a divine reason, which is clearly in opposition to Machiavelli's secular perspective. The poem is in the form of a single complex sentence and all the subordinate clauses begin with if, leaving the reader to the conclusion that rewards come from fulfilling the conditions. Unlike Machiavelli, who sees power as control over others, Kipling suggests that if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, suggests that power is the ability to rise above weakness and build relationships with others around us. Kipling quotes, "Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son." This personal reference to Kipling's instructions to his son has worldwide significance as it is a guide for the individual's journey and an inspiration for effective leadership in the future. Texts including The Prince and Kipling's poem If challenge cultural assumptions about power, making us consider what constitutes real power, whether it is seizing the moment like Machiavelli or focusing on our moral worth in the society. I challenge you to consider what you think is most important.